July 1943. High above the smoldering fields of Europe, a formation of American B-17 flying fortresses pressed eastward through thin morning clouds. German fighter squadrons cut in fast, banking to strike with deadly precision. Their cannon shells stitched across aluminum skin, fuel lines severed, flames expected. Yet to the shock of veteran Luftwaffe aces, many of those bombers kept flying. Smoke trailed, wings shuddered, but explosions never came. The assumption that a single well-placed burst would ignite massive fireballs began to falter. For years, German pilots believed American heavy bombers were cumbersome giants, easy to cripple with a strike at the fuel cells. They had no idea that by the spring of 1943, the B-17 had quietly adopted one of the most crucial innovations of the war: self-sealing fuel tanks. Invisible from the outside, hidden within wing and fuselage, these linings swelled upon contact with gasoline, choking leaks before fire could spread. In that subtle adjustment lay the survival of thousands of crews. It wasn't heroics alone that brought bombers back from missions with wings torn open. It was an unseen layer of engineering genius that denied flames their feast. German intelligence never noticed until it was far too late. The truth of this innovation began years earlier, not in the skies over Germany, but in quiet workshops where engineers studied wreckage and listened to pilots who had survived firestorms. Reports from North Africa and the early raids over occupied France told the same grim story. Fuel ignited more readily than bullets killed. Once tanks ruptured, flames coursed through the bomber, consuming men and machines within seconds. Something had to change. Chemists and designers collaborated, layering vulcanized rubber, treated fabric, and composite sheets into flexible cells that expanded when pierced. The result was remarkable. Instead of spraying fuel into open air, the lining closed around the puncture, starving oxygen and reducing catastrophic fires. What seemed like a modest technical fix altered the balance of the air war. Crews gained confidence, knowing they could absorb punishment and still find a path home. The Luftwaffe's doctrine, however, remained fixed. Pilots still aimed for wing roots and fuselage tanks, convinced those were the weak points. Their gun cameras recorded hits, but their logbooks filled with confusion as destroyed bombers somehow limped back to England. Intelligence officers dismissed these accounts, assuming exaggeration or luck. In truth, they faced an enemy shielded by a hidden armor of chemistry. By the time daylight bombing intensified in 1943, the difference was undeniable. Missions over Bremen, Schweinfurt, and Regensburg saw squadrons endure relentless interceptions. Dozens of Bf-109s and Fw-190s tore into their formations, cannons flashing, tracer fire carving arcs through the sky. Aircraft were riddled, wings shredded, crews wounded, but explosions became rarer. Pilots reported fuel streaming along fuselages without igniting, black smoke without orange fire. Mechanics back in England marveled at aircraft limping home, fuel tanks perforated yet sealed shut by their own lining. Each return proved the system worked. Statistics reinforced the evidence. Where once nearly half of all losses came from fire, now only a fraction suffered that fate. To German staff officers, the resilience of these bombers strained logic. They calculated hits sufficient to erase formations, yet saw them stagger back across the channel. Analysts in Berlin studied photographs, but the secret could not be gleaned from pictures. The tanks looked no different from older models. No armor plating gave away the change. What had shifted was invisible, a chemistry of expansion, swelling layers of rubber and gum that saved lives without a trace. In that unseen advantage, the tide of aerial endurance turned. Autumn brought deeper raids into the Reich, and with them, heavier losses predicted by both sides. Yet again, the flying fortresses defied expectations. From Stuttgart to Hamburg, German commanders noted bombers returning after receiving damage that should have turned them into falling torches. Crews spoke of watching shells pierce their wings, seeing streams of fuel cascade outward, only to watch the leaks narrow and vanish. Fear of fire, once every airman's nightmare, diminished, replaced by determination to finish the mission. The Luftwaffe's frustration mounted. Pilots reported bursts striking true, wings bathed in gasoline, yet explosions never followed. Ground controllers accused them of exaggeration, but gun camera reels told the same story: hits delivered, kills denied. German technical branches remained blind, still studying early captured B-17s without the new feature. The modification had been introduced gradually, so enemy intelligence assumed nothing had changed. In reality, American industry had already shifted production lines, equipping thousands of aircraft with the protection. Each month, more bombers entered service shielded by invisible armor. It wasn't just the machine that was reinforced. It was the entire strategy of daylight bombing, sustained by a secret no opponent had pierced. In silence, chemistry and design reshaped the air war's outcome. By winter of 1944, the effect was impossible to ignore. Entire squadrons returned battered yet intact, their fuselages riddled but their fuel tanks sealed. The self-sealing system transformed attrition math. A bomber force expected to collapse under pressure instead persisted, carrying destruction deeper into German heartlands. Each raid forced factories, railways, and refineries to rebuild, while the Luftwaffe dwindled in strength. For German pilots, disbelief hardened into despair. They had trusted doctrine: aim for the tanks, ignite the fire, finish the kill. But the targets no longer obeyed. What once brought certainty now bred doubt, and doubt on the battlefield is fatal. For the Americans, survival statistics told the tale. Hundreds of aircraft that would have been flaming wrecks instead landed, crews stepping down shaken but alive. Engineers rarely won medals, but their inventions saved thousands of men and ensured missions could continue when every life mattered. The Germans never truly grasped the scope of this quiet revolution until war's end, when captured aircraft revealed the secret. By then, the outcome was sealed. The Flying Fortress had lived up to its name, not only through armor and guns, but through hidden tanks that refused to burn.